Well, hello, and welcome to the Cory Doctorow podcast. I'm speaking to you from my hotel room in New York City and from behind a haze of jet lag, the like of which I have not seen in some time. Boy, I am just gaslammed. Not sure exactly why. It's 7:30 at night here, which is like 12:30 in London, which is a few hours after my bedtime. I did get up at 5 this morning to meet the cab, or 4:30. But still in all, I had a little nap on the plane, and I should be in better shape than this. It's been a great day here in New York. Landed, swept through customs like butter. I mean, it was just great. I've never had a customs guy who was better equipped to handle my weird O visa. Just sort of looked at it and went, "Oh yeah, you got an O visa. This is what I do with it." Normally they have to go and consult with 15 colleagues and look it up in three different policy manuals before they know what to do. Bag was waiting, cab was waiting. Off I went, reached my hotel, and what did I find? But next to my hotel, Anonymous were picketing the Church of Scientology, who were across the street from me. So, went up to my room, grabbed my video camera, ran downstairs, and shot about 40 minutes of interviews with the Anonymous folks, which I've now just packaged up and am uploading to Shenny on the actually really fast internet service in this hotel. So, boy, it's been a pretty good day. Yeah, so sending to Shenny for the for Boing Boing TV, Boing Boing Video. Um, so I'm in New York for the O'Reilly Tools of Change conference, and I'm here for about 4.5 days, and they're really jam packed. So there's this Tools of Change thing, and then all lunches, breakfasts, and dinners are taken up with meetings with agents and editors and so on. All good stuff. There's a secret television project, a secret movie project, and a secret stage play project about which I can say nothing except they're all made of awesome sauce, and they're all secret. There's a couple of columns coming out. I had a good week this week. Wrote a column for The Guardian, another one for Information Week, both of which I'm really happy with how they turned out. Guardian one goes live on Monday. I'm not sure about the Information Week one. They're trying to figure out how to format it for their CMS. And I'm having a great technology week. I installed a new calendar on my machine, something called Lightning. This is a plugin for the free email program Thunderbird, and it's basically the best calendar I've ever used. It's missing a few of the features that you see in iTunes, some of the publish and subscribe stuff, or iCal rather, but I actually think it's easier to use and way more stable and fast and better at searching huge repositories. My calendar goes all the way back to my first Newton in about 1992 and has, every restaurant I've ever eaten in and every phone number of every person I've had a meeting with and so on. It's really my palimpsest. I open it up and find everything I need to know about my history, and you'd be amazed how often that comes up and how super cool it is to be able to just go, what was that restaurant I ate in San Francisco in 1993? And to be able to actually look it up and have the phone number and the directions just sitting there in my calendar is tremendous. So my Thunderbird calendar is really doing it for me. The other awesome technology thing that's happening this week is I've almost got working a bunch of scripts that were written for me by Command Line, the host of the Command Line podcast. To take the work that I'm doing, my novels and short stories and so on, and to several times a day, every 15 minutes or so, to commit any changes that have been made to them to a source control repository called Git, something programmers use to keep track of different versions of software as they write it. But since all it does is keep track of the differences between different versions of a text file, I figured, hey, I could use it for my to-do list and the novels and all the rest of it. And I just can't wait to get it going because I'm going to be able to do things like replicate the repository or parts of it to get servers on the web. And then I can do things like give my editor access to it so when he wants to see all the typos that have been fixed in the electronic editions of the books since the last time they ran a copy so that they can correct them in new editions, all he'll have to do is run a diff between different versions. I started thinking about this when I spoke to an archivist who said that there was a real problem with novel writing these days from an archival or scholarly perspective because you dig into a novel from the olden times, and you'll find multiple complete drafts, sometimes retyped or rewritten, and you can actually see what happened to the manuscript as the author thought about it. But with an electronic edition, there tends to be just that one copy that just keeps getting tweaked and massaged as it goes through the creative and then the editorial process. And so a lot of that detail isn't captured. So every 15 minutes, any changes that I made to these files are committed, and the script also, if the computer's online, it grabs the current weather, the last three blog posts I made, the headlines, the last three blog posts I made, and weather. I forget what the other one is. Oh yeah, the time zone and the system clock. It's kind of where I am, what it's like here, and what's on my mind. So if I want to go back through that stuff later and figure out what I was thinking on the day that I wrote some paragraph or another, I can see exactly what the last thing that I'd blogged was and what the weather was like and what city I was in. Oh, it also logs the uptime on the computer, so how long it had been since I'd rebooted, which is kind of a proxy for how long since I've really been seriously tinkering with or traveling with the machine. So I'm really excited to have this, not least because it gives me a lot more insight into how my own process works, and also because it gives me some pretty robust backup as well. All right, well that's the geek out corner for the evening, and before I fall asleep here, I guess I'd better read you some of Someone Comes to Town, Someone Leaves Town, my 2005 novel. Natalie answered the door in a pretty sundress, combat boots, and a baseball hat. She eyed him warily. "I'd like to speak to Krishna," Alan said from under the hood of his poncho. There was an awkward silence. Finally, Natalie said, "He's not home." "I don't believe you," Alan said, "and it's urgent, and I'm not in the mood to play around. Can you get Krishna for me, Natalie?" "I told you," she said, not meeting his eyes. "He's not here." "That's enough," Alan said, in his boss voice, his more in anger than in sorrow voice. "Get him, Natalie. You don't need to be in the middle of this. It's not right for him to ask you to. Get him." Natalie closed the door, and he heard the deadbolt turn. Is she going to fetch him, or is she locking me out? He was on the verge of hammering. Excuse me. Told you I was jet lagged. He was on the verge of hammering the buzzer again, but he got his answer. Krishna opened the door and stepped out onto the dripping porch, bullying Alan out with his chest. He smiled grimly at Alan and made a, "well, go on" gesture. "What did you see?" Alan said, his voice tight but under control. "Saw you and the fat guy," Krishna said. "Saw you rooting around in the park. Saw him disappear down the fountain." "He's my brother," Alan said. "So what, he ain't heavy? He's fat, but I expect there's a reason for that. I've seen your kind before, Adam, and I don't like you, and I don't owe you any favors." He turned and reached for the screen door. "No," Alan said, taking him by the wrist, squeezing harder than was necessary. "Not yet. You said lost another one. What other one, Krishna? What else did you see?" Krishna gnawed on his neatly trimmed soul patch. "Let go of me, Andrew," he said, almost too softly to be heard over the rain. "Tell me what you saw," Alan said. "Tell me what you saw and I'll let you go." His other hand balled into a fist. "God damn it, tell me!" Alan yelled and twisted Krishna's arm behind his back. "I called the cops," Alan said. Krishna said. "I called them again, and they're on their way. Let me go, freak show." "I don't like you either, Krishna," Alan said, twisting his arm higher. He let go suddenly, then stumbled back as Krishna scraped the heel of his motorcycle boot down his shin and hammered it down into the top of his foot. He dropped to one knee and grabbed his foot while Krishna slipped into the house and shot the lock. Then he hobbled home as quickly as he could. He tried to pace off the ache in his foot, but the throbbing got worse, so he made himself a drippy ice pack and sat on his sofa in the immaculate living room and rocked back and forth, holding the ice to his bare foot. At 5, Davy graduated from torturing animals to beating up smaller children. Alan took him down to the school on the day after Labor Day to sign him up for kindergarten. He was wearing his stiff new blue jeans and sneakers, his knapsack stuffed with fresh binders and pencils. Finding out about these things had been Alan's first experience with the wide world, a kindergartner sizing up his surroundings at speed so that he could try to fit in. Davy was a cute kid and had the benefit of Alan's experience. He had a foxy little face and shaggy blonde hair, all clever smiles and awkward winks, and for all that, he was still a monster. They came and got Alan 20 minutes after classes started, when his new homeroom teacher was still briefing them on the rules and regulations for junior high students. He was painfully aware of all the eyes on his back as he followed the office lady out of the portable and into the old school building where the kindergarten and the administration were housed. "We need to reach your parents," the office lady said once they were alone in the empty hallways of the old building. You can't, Alan said. They don't have a phone. Then we can drive out to see them, the office lady said. She smelled of artificial floral scent and ivory soap, like the female hygiene aisle at the drugstore. Mom's real sick, Alan said, sticking to his traditional story. Your father, then, the office lady said. He'd had variations on this conversation with every office lady at the school, and he knew that he'd win it in the end. Meantime, what did they want? My dad's, gone, he said, since I was a little kid. That line always got the office ladies, since I was a little kid, made them want to write it down for their family Christmas newsletters. The office lady smiled a powdery smile, and he put her hand on his shoulder. All right, Alan, come with me. Davy was sitting on the dusty sofa in the vice principal's office. He punched the sofa cushions rhythmically. Alan, he said, when the office lady led him in. Hi, Dave, Alan said. What's going on? They're stupid here. I hate them. He gave the sofa a particularly vicious punch. I'll get Mrs. Davenport, the office lady said, and closed the door behind her. What did you do? Alan asked. She wouldn't let me play, David said, glaring at him. Who wouldn't? A girl. She had the blocks and I wanted to play with them and she wouldn't let me. What did you hit her with? Alan asked, dreading the answer. A block, David said, suddenly murderously cheerful. I hit her in the eye. Alan groaned. The door opened, and the vice principal, Mr. Davenport, came in and sat behind the desk. He was the punishment man, the one that no one wanted to be sent in to see. Hello, Alan, he said gravely. Alan hadn't ever been personally introduced by Mr. Davenport, but Billy got into some spot of precognitive trouble from time to time, rushing out of class to stop some disaster at home or somewhere else in the school. Mr. Davenport knew that Alan was a straight arrow, not someone he'd ever need to personally take an interest in. He crouched down next to Darren, hitching up his slacks. You must be David, he said, ducking down to meet Davy's downcast gaze. Davy punched the sofa. I'm Mr. Davenport, he said, and extended a hand with a big class ring on it and a smaller wedding band. Davy kicked him in the nose, and the vice principal toppled over backwards, whacking his head on a sharp corner of the desk. He tumbled over on his side and clutched his head. Motherfucker, he gasped, and Davy giggled maniacally. Alan grabbed Davy's wrist and bent his arm behind his back, shoving him across his knee. He swatted the little boy on his ass as hard as he could, 3 times. Don't you ever, Alan began. The vice principal sat up, still clutching his head. That's enough, he said, catching Alan's eye. Sorry, Alan said, and Davy's sorry too, right? He glared at David. You're a stupid motherfucker, David said, and squirmed off of Alan's lap. The vice principal's lips tightened. Alan, he said quietly, take your brother into the hallway. I'm going to write a note that your mother will have to sign before David comes back to school after his 2-week suspension. David glared at each of them in turn. I'm not coming back to this motherfucker place, he said. He didn't. The rain let up by afternoon, leaving a crystalline, fresh-mown air hanging over the market. Andrew sat in his office by his laptop and watched the sun come out. He needed to find Ed, needed to find Frank, needed to find Grant, but he was out of practice when it came to the ways of the mountain and its sons. Whenever he tried to imagine a thing to do next, his mind spun, and the wordless howling thing inside him stirred. The more he tried to remember what it was like to be a son of the mountain, the more he felt something he'd worked very hard for, his delicate normalcy, slipping away. So he put his soaked clothes in the dryer, clamped his laptop under his arm, and went out. He moped around the park and the fountain, but the stroller moms whose tots were splashing in the wading pool gave him sufficient dirty looks that he walked up to the Greeks, took a table on the patio, and ordered a murderously strong cup of coffee. He opened up the screen and rotated around the little cafe table until the screen was in the shade and his wireless card was aligned for best reception with the Yagi antenna poking out of his back window. He opened up a browser and hit MapQuest, then brought up a street detailed view of the market. He pasted it into his CAD app and started to mark it up, noting all the different approaches to his house that Davy might take the next time he came. The map soothed him, made him feel a part of the known world. Augusta Avenue and Oxford were both out. Even after midnight, when the stores were all shuttered, there was far too much foot traffic for Davy to pass by unnoticed. But the alleys that mazed the backways were ideal. Some were fenced off, some were too narrow to pass, but most of them, he tried to navigate them by bicycle once and found himself utterly lost. He'd had to turn around slowly until he spotted the CN Tower and use it to get his bearings. He poked at the map, sipping the coffee, then ordered another from the Greek's son, who hadn't yet figured out that he was a regular, and so sneered at his laptop with undisguised contempt. Computers, huh? He said. Doesn't anyone just read a book anymore? I used to own a bookstore, Alan said, then held up a finger and moused over to his photo album and brought up the thumbnails of his old bookstore. See? The Greek's son, 30, with a paunch and sweat rings into the pits of his white The Greek's t-shirt, sat down and looked at the photos. I remember that place. On Harvard Street, right? Alan smiled. Yep. We lost the store when they blew up the abortion clinic next door, he said. Insurance paid out, but I wasn't ready to start over with another bookstore. The Greek son shook his head. Another coffee, right? Right, Alan said. Alan went back to the map, realigning the laptop for optimal reception again. You got a wireless card in that? A young guy at the next table asked. He was dressed in Kensington Market crusty punk chic, tats and facial piercings, filth gray bunch of fucking goose tee, cut-offs, and sweaty high boots draped with chains. Yeah, Alan said. He sighed and closed the map window. He wasn't getting anywhere anyway. You got service here? Where's your access point? Crusty punk or no, he sounded as nerdy as any of the webheads you'd find shopping for bargains on CD blanks on College Street. 3 blocks that way, Alan pointed. Hanging off of my house. The network name is Wales Ave. Shit, that's you, the kid said. God damn it, you're clobbering our access points. What access point? Access points. Parasite net. He indicated a peeling sticker on the lapel of his cut-down leather jacket, showing a skull with crossed radio towers underneath it. I'm trying to get a mesh net running through all of the market, and you're hammering me. Jesus, I was ready to rat you out to the radio cops at the Canadian Radio and Television Commission. Dude, you've got to turn down the fucking gain on those things. What's a mesh net? The kid moved his beer over to Alan's table and sat down. Okay, so pretend that your laptop is the access point. It radiates more or less equally in all directions, depending on your antenna characteristics and leaving out the RF shadows and that microwaves and stucco and cordless phones generate. He arranged the coffee cup and the beer at equal distances from the laptop, then moved them around to demonstrate the coverage area. Right, so what happens if I'm out of range over here? He put his beer back on his own table. And you want to reach me? Well, you could just turn up the gain on your access point, either by increasing the power so that it radiates further in all directions, or by focusing the transmission so that they travel farther in a line of sight. Right, Alan said, sipping his coffee. Right. So both of those approaches suck. If you turn up the power, you radiate over everyone else's signal. So if I've got an access point here, he balled his fist between their tables, no one can hear it because you're drowning it out. It's like you're shouting so loud that no one else can carry on a conversation. So why don't you just use my network? I want to be able to get online anywhere in the market, but that means that anyone can, right? The crusty punk waved his hand dismissively. Sure, whatever. But what happens if your network gets shut down? Or if you want to start eavesdropping on other people? Or if someone wants to get to the printer in her living room? It's no good. So what, you want me to switch to focused antennae? That's no good. If you use a focus signal, you're going to have to be perfectly aligned if you're going to talk back to your base. So unless you want to provide a connection to one tiny pinpoint somewhere a couple kilometers away, it won't do you any good. There's no solution then? I should just give up? The crusty punk held up his hands. Hell no! There's just no centralized solution. You can't be Superman, blanketing the whole world with wireless, using your almighty antenna prick. But so what? That's what mesh networks are for. Check it out. He arranged the beer and the laptop and the coffee cup so that they were strung out along a straight line. Okay, you're the laptop and I'm the coffee cup. We both have a radio and we want to talk to each other. We could turn up the gain on our radio so that they can shout loud enough to be heard at this distance, but that would drown out this guy here. He gestured at the now empty beer. We could use a focused antenna, but if I move a little bit off the beam, he nudged the coffee cup to one side, we're dead. But there's a third solution. We ask the beer to pass messages around? Fucking right we do! That's the mesh part. Every station on the network gets 2 radios, one for talking in one direction, the other for relaying in the other direction. The more stations you add, the lower the power on each radio, and the more pathways you get to carry your data. Alan shook his head. It's a fucking mind blower, isn't it? Sure, Alan said. Sure, but does it work? Don't all those hops between point A and point B slow down the connection? A little, sure. Not so as you'd notice. They don't have to go that far. The farthest any of these signals has to travel is 151 Front Street. What's down at 151 Front? Torex, the main network interchange for the whole city. We stick an antenna out the window there and downlink it into the cage where UUNet and PSINet meet. Voila, instant 11 megabit citywide freenet. Where do you get the money for that? Who said anything about money? How much do you think UUNet and PSINet charge each other to exchange traffic with one another? Who benefits when UUNet and PSI cross-connect? Is UUNet the beneficiary of PSI's traffic or vice versa? Internet access only costs money at the edge, and with a mesh net, there is no edge anymore. It's penetration at the center, just like that Devo song. I'm Adrian, Alan said. I'm Kurt, the crusty punk said. Buy me a beer, Adrian? It'd be my pleasure, Alan said. All right then, me to bed. Good night.